Lee Jun-hyuk, a cold and calculating billionaire, always believed that love was nothing more than a distraction. To him, money and power were the only paths to success. As the CEO of a tech empire, he controlled the market with an iron fist. But behind his facade of success, there was a broken man, incapable of trusting anyone. On a rainy night, speeding in his sports car, he receives an urgent call from his lawyer. Something big is about to happen, a multi-million-dollar lawsuit against his company, filed by a small bankrupt florist. He rolls his eyes. Just another insignificant case, he thinks. But the name on the lawsuit document makes him pause. Kang Ha-ri. The name stirs a distant memory, but he brushes it off. What could a simple flower seller possibly do against a tycoon like him? As he discusses the matter over the phone, he fails to notice a truck speeding through the intersection. In seconds, everything goes dark. Jun-hyuk wakes up in a hospital bed, surrounded by machines and an incessant buzzing in his head. His mind is blank. He has no idea who he is. A nurse enters, surprised to see him awake. "Mr. Lee, how are you feeling?" He frowns. "Lee? Who is Lee?" The nurse exchanges worried glances with the doctor. "You were in a serious accident. There was a head injury. Your memory may be compromised." Jun-hyuk tries to remember something, anything, but nothing comes. He looks at his reflection in the glass beside the bed, a well-dressed man, but with soulless eyes. Who was he? On the other side of the city, Kang Ha-ri holds a letter in her hands. Her fingers tremble as she reads the notice. Her lawsuit against Lee Jun-hyuk has been dismissed. "Impossible," she whispers. "He destroyed my family, and now he just escapes justice." Hari remembers the day she lost everything. Her father, a small businessman, trusted Jun-hyuk's company with a contract. But when the billionaire changed the terms, her father went bankrupt. The shock sent him to the hospital, and he never recovered. Since then, Hari had sworn revenge. She wanted to see Lee Jun-hyuk pay, but fate had other plans. Days later, Hari is walking along a deserted road after leaving the market. Suddenly, she sees a man in a suit sitting alone on a bench, staring at the sky as if he were lost. Something about him intrigues her. He seems empty. Without knowing why, she approaches him. "Are you okay?" He looks at her, confused. "I don't know who I am." Hari's eyes widen. She is standing in front of the man who destroyed her life, but he remembers nothing. Hari felt her heart race. The man sitting before her, looking at her with innocent, empty eyes, was Lee Jun-hyuk, the same billionaire who had ruined her life, but now he had no idea who he was. She blinked a few times, trying to process the irony of fate. Her plan was to make him pay, to face justice, to suffer as she had suffered. But faced with a man who didn't even remember his own sins, revenge lost some of its flavor. He stared at her, waiting for an answer. Hari took a deep breath. She couldn't waste this opportunity. "You don't have anywhere to stay?" she asked, trying to hide her hesitation. He looked around, confused. "I don't think so." Hari bit her lip. Leaving him there alone wouldn't change anything, but if she stayed close to him, she could control the situation. An idea began to take shape in her mind. "I know a place. You can come with me." He hesitated, but having no other options, nodded. Hari started walking without looking back. Her heart was at war. This was madness. But if fate had placed Jun-hyuk in her hands, she would do whatever it took not to waste this chance. The walk to her home was silent. Jun-hyuk observed everything around him as if he was seeing the world for the first time. Hari tried not to feel pity. He didn't deserve it. When they arrived at her small apartment behind the flower shop, Hari handed him a blanket and pointed to the couch. "You can stay here until you figure out who you are." He smiled, relieved. "Thank you." She looked away. She hadn't expected him to be so human. That night, Hari lay awake, staring at the ceiling. A million thoughts raced through her mind. How could she use this situation to her advantage? If Jun Hyuk didn't remember his past, perhaps, she could rewrite it. The next morning, he woke up before her and, to her surprise, was helping organize the flower shop. "You don't have to do that. I want to help. I feel like I need to make up for something." Hari crossed her arms. He had no idea how much he needed to make up for. In the following days, she tested the limits of the situation. She assigned him difficult tasks, expecting him to lose his patience like the arrogant man he once was. But to her surprise, he never complained. He smiled. He helped. He seemed like a completely different person. The confusion inside her grew. How could someone so cruel act so kindly? Had losing his memory truly transformed him into another person? And then something happened that changed everything. On a rainy night, as they closed the shop, Hari slipped on the wet floor. In an instant, Jun Hyuk caught her, preventing the fall. Their eyes met, and for a brief moment, time stopped. He looked at her in a way that no one ever had before. And in that instant, Hari realized that her heart was beginning to betray her plan for revenge. Time seemed to have stopped. Hari could feel Jun Hyuk's breath so close that her heart pounded harder than it should. He held her firmly, his eyes locked onto hers, as if he were discovering something new and terrifying. She quickly pulled away, trying to hide her nervousness. "Be careful," he said with a small smile. "I don't want you to get hurt." Hari swallowed hard. How ironic. The man who destroyed her life now cared about her. Was this just a trick of fate or a cruel joke? In the days that followed, something changed between them. Jun Hyuk started staying closer to her, trying to help with the flowers, asking about her life, smiling at her as if they were old friends. Hari tried to keep her distance, but each day by his side made her anger weaken. She hated herself for it. One afternoon, while arranging flower pots, Jun Hyuk looked at her with a distant gaze. "I feel like I've seen you before. It's strange, like I know you." Hari froze for a second but forced a smile. "Maybe it's just your imagination." But inside, her heart raced. Was he starting to remember? Did this mean the arrogant, ruthless man could return? She couldn't let him remember. Not now. Trying to distract him, Hari suggested a walk around the neighborhood. As they walked, he looked at everything with curiosity, like a child discovering the world. "I feel like I'm seeing everything for the first time," he confessed. Hari, despite trying to resist, felt a tightness in her chest. How could someone change so much just by losing their memory? Who was the real Lee Jun-hyuk? The monster from the past or the kind man now holding an umbrella over her head to protect her from the rain? That night, when they arrived home, she found herself staring at him longer than she should have. He was preparing dinner, focused, as if it were the most important thing in the world. "Why are you helping me so much?" she asked, unable to contain her curiosity. He looked up, surprised. "I don't know, but when I'm with you, I feel like I'm in the right place." Hari looked away. This wasn't the plan. She couldn't get involved. He was her enemy. But why did her heart ache when she remembered that? In the days that followed, Jun Hyuk's memories began to return in flashes. Small fragments, a meeting room, a name on a contract, a signature. Things he didn't understand, but that made him feel guilty. Hari noticed something was changing in him, and, afraid of what was coming, she decided to leave before it was too late. The next morning, when he woke up, he found only a note on the table. "Don't look for me, forget that I exist." But he couldn't forget her, because without realizing it, he had already fallen in love with her. Jun Hyuk gripped the note tightly, unable to believe it. Hari was gone. An inexplicable emptiness filled him. Why? Why had she run away without warning? Something inside him screamed that she was the missing piece of his puzzle. In the days that followed, her absence tormented him. He returned to the flower shop, but it was closed. He asked the neighbors, but no one knew where she had gone. It was as if she had vanished from the face of the earth. And then something unexpected happened. While walking down a busy street, he saw a cafe and, for no apparent reason, felt a chill run down his spine. Something about this cafe felt important. He stepped inside, looking around, and suddenly flashes burst through his mind. He saw himself sitting there at a table, signing documents. Across from him sat an older man, his eyes filled with desperation. "I trusted your company, Mr. Lee. My family depends on this." The headache struck like an electric shock. Jun Hyuk fell to his knees, clutching his head. He knew that man. He recognized that look. And then the final piece of the puzzle appeared. "My father died because of you." Hari's voice echoed in his mind, her face filled with pain, the hatred in her eyes. The realization hit like a storm. He destroyed her family. He caused all of Hari's suffering. Suddenly, everything made sense. The reason she was so careful around him, the look she gave him when she thought he wasn't watching. She knew who he was. She had always known. He stumbled out of the cafe, his heart pounding. Hari had been by his side all this time, hiding the truth from him. And now he understood why. But there was something she didn't know, something even he hadn't known until that moment. He loved her. He had to find her. He had to tell her that he remembered everything. He spent hours searching. He went back to the hospital where he had been admitted, but found no clues. He returned to the neighborhood where the flower shop had been, but it was empty. Desperation grew inside him. And then, as if fate had taken pity on him, he saw her. Hari was sitting alone on a bench across the street, staring at the sky, lost in thought. His heart pounded harder. She looked sad. Jun Hyuk crossed the street without hesitation. She noticed his approach and stood up abruptly, panic in her eyes. "What are you doing here?" Her voice trembled. He stopped in front of her, taking a deep breath. "I remembered everything, Hari." Her eyes widened, her face turning pale. "I know what I did to you. I know what I did to your family." Tears welled up in her eyes. "Then you know why I could never forgive you." Jun Hyuk swallowed hard. "And yet, even remembering everything, I still love you." Hari's gaze filled with pain and confusion. "Don't say that." "I have to, because I know you feel something for me too." Hari turned away, fighting back tears. But he saw it. He saw the hesitation in her eyes. And in that moment, he knew. The fight wasn't over yet. Hari felt her chest tighten. She wanted to run, to deny everything, but Jun Hyuk's words kept her frozen in place. "Even remembering everything, I still love you." She closed her eyes, trying to hold back her tears. How could she love the man who destroyed her family? How could her heart be so cruel to her? Jun Hyuk took a step forward, but she raised her hand, silently asking him to stop. "You can't just say you love me and expect everything to be okay." Her voice trembled. "What happened can't be erased." He took a deep breath. "I know, and I'm not asking for forgiveness. I just want you to know that for the first time in my life, I truly understand what I did, and I want to make it right." Hari let out a humorless laugh. "And how can you fix something that's already been destroyed?" Jun Hyuk hesitated for a second, then reached into his pocket and handed her an envelope. Hari took it, wary. Her eyes widened as she saw what was inside. What is this?" "The documents to my company." She flipped through the pages, disbelief washing over her. You're giving up everything?" He nodded. "I sold most of the company. With the money, I reopened your family's flower shop and created a fund to help small businesses like your father's." Hari felt her legs weaken. "This doesn't change the past." "I know." He gently took her hands, and this time she didn't pull away. "But I want to prove to you that I am a different man, not because I lost my memory, but because you taught me what it means to truly love someone." Tears rolled down Hari's face. The cold, arrogant man who had once destroyed her life was gone. In his place stood a man who had chosen to change, not for forgiveness, but because he wanted to be better. She let out a shaky breath. What if I can never forgive you? Jun-hyuk gave her a sad smile. Then I will accept that, but I won't give up on you. The silence between them was heavy with emotions. Hari closed her eyes, feeling the weight of everything they had been through. Her hatred had slowly transformed into something she could no longer deny. She opened her eyes, and before she could stop herself, she stepped forward and kissed him. Time stopped, the world disappeared. Only the two of them existed. When they pulled away, Hari looked at him, her heart racing. This doesn't mean everything is fixed, Jun-hyuk smiled. I know, but it's a start. And there, beneath the night sky, with tears and smiles intertwined, a new chapter began for them. A chapter where the past could never be erased, but where love had the power to rewrite the future.